I'd like to call to order the Forsyth East Law Commission meeting, July 19th, 2017. Noticeably gone is Commissioner Huntington. I think he's tuna fishing, right? I'd like to recognize the past president, Ron Caputo, in the audience. Say hello to him. Thank you. His wife, Judy. First item of business will be public comment.
Our first speaker tonight is David Sweeney.
Hello.
Hi, David.
I just, you know, I've kind of been out of touch with reality for a while here, and there's a couple of things that I had questions on, and you know, and I guess first of all, you know, been on close to 2 months since this whole thing of paid administrative leave for some of the staff came up. And there was going to be an ongoing investigation and all these things. And I know I'm very curious about the status of that whole situation is, and what's the direction you folks are going to take. And then I had something else cross my mind. You guys just sold some real estate out here. Nice piece. 3 acres almost, wasn't it? Waterfront. Sold it for pennies on the dollar. To me, it seems like it's only fair that anytime a piece of property comes up for sale within the Port District or Lane County or anywhere else in the state of Oregon, that it should go on the multiple listing for everybody to see. I know for a fact I've got an investor myself that write a check for that right now. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, I understand that we just lost maintenance 3. That's not good, folks. Not looking too good out there. The pump out stations. It's my understanding that there's not one of them out there that are working. Now I know that I know it's legal to just untie your boat and go for a little ride out there in the river and pump your waste overboard. It's totally legal to do that, but it ain't right. In a navigable waterway, not right. That's about all for right now. Like I say, I haven't been totally in touch with reality, but we're definitely winning this battle. So,
Dave, it's good to see you, but I will correct you, not any navigable waters. I think it's 3 mile line.
A 3 mile line?
3 mile line. That's 3 miles offshore to empty your sewage.
Yeah, well, right, that's the way it used to be anyway, I know for sure, but there were some changes on that navigable. I think it's in Article 4, I'm not sure.
You may be right, but I know the Coast Guard reported us, and
Correct,
it's 3 miles.
but it was one of those,
That's fine.
it was one of those things in the rules that,
So if you see anybody doing it in the river out here, it is very illegal. Thank you, Dave. Good to see you.
Next speaker is Michelle Colwell.
I don't see anybody else. Oh, there you go.
I'm pretty interested and been paying attention to this riprap project that you have going, and I've been watching it pretty closely. The port does not need to go to the city of Florence for a land use permit. The Port of Siuslaw is a publicly chartered special district under the law OR 777. Though immediately adjacent to the city of Florence along the banks of the Siuslaw River, the port is a special government entity that is separate from the city of Florence and Lane County. You don't need to go to it for a permit. And I still believe that this FEMA grant money was attained fraudulently. The reports from the first report that was given, she was mentioning all the documents by the engineer was a resubmittal of a 2013 bulkhead report. That's why there's so much confusion. That's why it came back to your engineer to redo, because it had nothing to do with out there. It had, the report that he submitted to the state lands and everybody else was a resubmittal of that project out there, a 2013 bulkhead report. So, and according to your conversation with the engineer when he finally came out here, he was adamant about it being 100% storm damage. And when he finally gets out there, he granted you 50% being right. You should have told him he was 100% wrong. Because to me, it looked like that was the first time he physically stood and looked at the project. If he didn't, and he didn't even know where it was gonna start, or where it was gonna end, or who had ownership of the property. There's all kinds of false information that was given to FEMA and to the city. And to the city. The city, you know, you don't need their permission. Ron Priestler's pressuring you, Saxon's pressuring you to continue this project, pressuring the port about all the money already spent. Get the money back from the engineer. They were false reports, fraudulent reports. You don't have to worry about that. It makes absolutely no sense to continue this FEMA thing based on all the false information you were given. And the engineer does carry his errors and omission insurance. That's on the back of his little report there. Until you guys take back the powers that were unlawfully transferred to the port manager way back when, you will continue to have all these problems, all these controversies that arise, because the city of Florence has their own agenda, and it's not for the benefit of the port. They don't even refer to the Port of Sayula as a port. They refer to it as the Florence, the city of Florence Waterfront Marine District. So it's good to work hand in hand, but not when they don't even acknowledge you as being a port. They have an ulterior motive. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Some points well taken.
Our last speaker tonight is Michael Simmons.
I'll make it brief. I'm here to listen to and gain information about the erosion. You're going to discuss that later this evening. I'm on that beach each and every day. I have been for the last 8 years. I could document it if I needed to, but sometimes twice a day. And so I have much passion and interest in the Port of Sayula's campgrounds, beach, and erosion problems. And again, what was presented from the strategic business plan that we read about 4 years ago and what has happened in reality might be different than what has been reported. So I'm here primarily for information, and yet I would reserve my right to voice my opinions after I gain the information during that discussion, please.
Let me remind you, we have our discussion at 6 p.m. tonight on the Sea Road. So there probably will not be any more discussion. If you'd like, you could have a couple minutes to explain your position, because I'd certainly like to hear it, if you'd like to do so now.
Certainly. I was under the understanding that would be part of the public.
It was public, but we started at 6 p.m., sir. So I apologize for that. But I think we'll go into this later. We decided just for a 30-month continuance without making any decision is what we're going to shoot for. We're going to ask for the permits to be extended for 30 months with no obligation on our part until we review all the facts. That's why I'd welcome you to spend your 2 or 3 minutes you have left and explain your position.
Excuse
if you'd
me?
like.
Did you say 30 months, not 30 days?
30 months. That gives us plenty of time to review all facts before we make any decisions.
That takes it way beyond your business plan from 213 to 218.
That has no bearing on it if we authorize a project now. But I'm not here to interact with you. If you'd like a couple
Yes.
minutes, you're welcome.
So I assume then nothing will be done with Rosie. From your statement that you have just said, which is the information I probably actually came to seek.
I'm not saying nothing will be done. We're going to review all the information. We have 30 days to say yes or no, whether we accept, 30 months, excuse me, to whether or not we're going to accept the grant.
But the grant is already in place. That is correct? It's
Yes, and we're
already
asking for a
approved.
30-month, yes.
The design and the engineering has already been done for the erosion problem?
It has, and we've asked if we could revisit the original design. And that was all provided at the public session an hour ago. And I'm just trying to be helpful to you.
We seem to be quite embroiled in politics, of which I try to stay out of. And one of the basic priorities of the port was to maintain what it has as far as assets is concerned. If you are not going to address the source of the problem for that erosion for 30 more months, might I, as again, a daily visitor on that beach where there are at least 4 breaches along the bulkhead, whatever this retaining wall is called, that would be perhaps a source of erosion. But if you are not going to solve the problem by finding its source of erosion, Rosie needs a Band-Aid for immediate fix. And as you well know, to fix it properly, it's going to cost more later on. But right now, just maintaining what you already have as far as dry camping, a steady income for the year-round. Yes, it's close to breaking even sometimes. I keep up with the breast. I'm here every day. I know kind of know what's going on as what is reported. I really thought that you were going to be discussing it from 7 to 8. I apologize for my information. I got it from one of the maintenance workers today. Immaterial, my source was not good. I thought perhaps I could get the direct reactions from you during this upcoming meeting. I was wrong. I hear the results, but again, I am pleading that immediately within the next 30 days versus the 30 months, you can't correct the problem in 30 days, but you can at least put a Band-Aid on your own property of stopping the erosion on row C. You've got materials already. You could do that. I have a personal stake in it because for 8 years now, through 2 German Shepherds, Baron von Doggemine and Rook von Doggemine, I've been at Saxton's Point, whom I got permission to run my dog on each and every day, at least twice sometimes.
Thank you for your comments, and you're welcome to meet with us afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just would like to clarify one thing. The 30-month extension with the FEMA grant was to extend it was up to 30 months to complete the project, not 30 months to decide if we're going to do
Oh,
the
okay.
project or not.
Okay.
So it's just
What length of
an
time?
extension that gives us up to 30 months, not that we would take 30 months, but it gives us that option to revisit, to do more looking at the designs and work with FEMA and.
So by 2020, it should be completed.
Correct.
That would be the source of the erosion versus the Band-Aid that I'm proposing.
Well, it would be the entire project.
Yes, thank you
Yes.
for that clarification.
Okay, you're welcome. We have two more people who have signed up to speak. The next speaker is Frank Heisley.
It'll only be a minute.
Time frame.
I wasn't gonna speak tonight, I was just gonna listen. But I wanna go on record. I would look forward to working with all you guys. It's too bad that I didn't get a chance, but I won't try again. What I've heard and what I've studied here is you guys got a huge problem on this river, on this port. You guys don't know who I am. Especially Nancy doesn't know who I am.
I read your letter.
Well, that's what I want to go on record for. I have 2 more days of ceremony. It's been 1 year since my boat was chained to that dock and was charged $300 to unchain it for a $12 slip. And I had a note on the windshield that said, if I owe anything, leave a receipt and I will pay when I get my boat trailer fixed. 30 minutes my boat was there and it was chained. Is that a fair fine? Passed. I got trespassed for 6 months. My tribe said wait 1 year. 13th of this month, it's been 1 year. So now I'll be sending letters out, and I want that money back. I don't need an apology. I was arrested for trespassing for buying peaches on that port. 1 week later, cost me $200 fine. Angry? Yes. But during my tribal ceremony this week, I had to finish. I started this last year. I tried to explain this to you and Ron Caputo a year ago. They interrupted a tribal ceremony down there on the river. I was out there sleeping in my boat 3 days. Chained my boat to the dock. I slept on my boat 2 days. Wrote letters to the manager saying, please come explain why you chained my boat. He went on a trip. Sent down one of the port employees to try to strong arm me. You were there when I came in with a witness.
Me?
Yes. I came in and paid money, and that young man told me 3 times, you're never to bring this boat back down to this port again. I had a new boat.
Frank, at this time, I understand you have problems with the port.
Mhm.
Let's not take this time. If you'd like to submit it in writing to this
Oh, yeah.
commission, what you
You bet.
require,
You
but
bet.
rather than sit here and point at all the commissioners and call us in and call us out.
No, I don't have any agenda, and I have no
Okay.
problems with any of you.
Well, it is starting to sound like a little bit, so.
like it.
And that goes totally against my ceremony I'm doing this. I have 2 more days.
We all read your letter,
Okay.
and the port manager said she'll respect your wishes
Very
and
good.
have a
Very
good
good.
ceremony.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Wendy Jarman.
So, you'll say, oh, that silly girl. But I really want to just appeal to you all from the heart again. And I heard about the land sale. I don't understand much about that, but I don't think there's any need to sell off all the port property to make money, to get in the black again. I think you're sitting on a gold mine. And I, through the years, living 45 years down there, I haven't seen the port really fix on what they're sitting on to really, you could make billions. Anyway, there seems to be a general distaste for fishermen and their vessels. All commercial boats are just that, commercial boats, because they create the ambiance in Old Town. If without them, we would be nothing. And so a lot of people think we shouldn't dredge the river. I think that's way wrong too. I think that our Coast Guard can't save a boat in distress if we got 2 inches of water in the bar. And I've seen them bring people in really dangerous weather and everything. So we do need to keep up the dredging, and I don't know how anybody can go to Washington and ask for that if their heart's not in it, So whoever you send, I hope it's somebody that believes in all of this together, the total balance of it. And every little port and tourist town around the perimeter of this great nation is bucking in on ecotourism, and we're all gonna miss the boat if you guys don't wake up to that, this beauty you're sitting on, and all you'd have to do is, you know, pay some guys, put some people to work, and maybe go into debt a little bit farther, but it would pay off for the next 50 years, a century maybe, I think. If ecotourism is the latest thing, and what you do is you develop what you have to be its finest, and you show that you want to preserve the wildlife and the beauty of it. And then they come. You don't have to worry, because there's people coming from all over the world to visit these eco spots. So I hope you give some thought to that. And you know, I'm also just here to back up my friend David, and I know what his vision is, and I feel that he hasn't had a fair shake in expressing it, and I just wish that you would turn an ear to him next time he wants to talk about what he loves the most about this, and how you can save it and promote it, and it won't be that difficult. You know, I got here in 71, and I used to rub elbows with old fishermen, and they're not so bad. They're great people. They were all gentlemen as far as I was concerned, and we got to keep that. That's part of the gold, you know. Just seeing those boats there is refreshing to people who come from all parts of the country. And David's boat is beautiful. I've had the privilege to see every inch of the inside of that gorgeous vessel, and somebody called it a derelict. I don't remember who, but that just cuts, you know. Not only that, but he cares about every eagle and osprey and every blade of grass on this riverbank, and you know, so let's try to embrace some of what he wishes for the port too, okay?
Thank you, Woody.
You guys are good. Thank you for the work you do. See if I can get back to my chair. I've been wobbly all day.
That it? Okay, moving on. Approval of minutes by consent.
In your packets, you have 3 sets of minutes. You have 2 special sessions. One was on June 13th, then the regular meeting on the 21st, and then the brief special meeting on the 30th to swear in Commissioner Meyer.
Can they, or just by consent for all 3?
There's no problems.
I don't object.
No objections, they're approved. Financial statements by consent. Would you like to give us you can give us a presentation, Dina?
Yeah, just a couple little things. On the, I don't have anything to say on the balance sheet. On the profit and loss general fund, this is a revised report from the report I emailed you last week. And the only difference is, well, first off, I want to say at the bottom it says 1 of 8 pages. It's only 4 pages long. I don't know, it repeated all of the accounts for 4 pages, and I deleted them, but it still says 1 of 8. Anyway, it's 4 pages. So if you go to page 4, we had a few late invoices come in after the first reports were printed. And so really the only one of significance is the middle of page 4, account 5940 election expense. We received the $3,364 invoice for that expense. And I wanted to make sure I got it on this fiscal year's expenses, since we only budget every other year for elections, and we didn't budget for it in this current fiscal year, so. So, as I reviewed the financials, personnel services came in at 87% of budget, and materials and services came in at 89% of budget. So our numbers are looking really good, and income numbers were above what we projected. And I don't have any comments on the capital maintenance fund. But on the occupancy report, we noticed that, the year-to-date numbers are down from the previous 2 years. I don't know why. I'm thinking we had a very rainy winter. Maybe, we just had a little bit less occupancy. But if you kind of look at how numbers are tracking across, it's kind of a little bit below percentage on most of the months. So, just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah, mortgage is down. Mike, do you have any questions?
No, what did you say percentage of the total budget was materials and services?
Materials and services was 89% of budget.
So that's $431,000 was actual for 12 months, is that right? Oh, that includes, do we transfer to that from the contingency?
Yes,
So basically, we exceeded our expenditures, is what we really did. Is that correct?
that would be correct, but
Okay,
the,
that's.
Okay,
I just wanna
all
make
right.
sure that that's,
but contingency covered it.
no, right, but.
Right.
We didn't cover our materials and services. We exceeded that amount by having to go to the contingency
Contingency.
fund. Okay, so we spent over 100% of what we budgeted. Okay, that's cool.
Question on the ending fund balance. I think, being a little new at this, that bottom line 427,801 includes the ending fund balance, at which you try to begin the next year with that, hopefully with that same amount. Is that, I'm looking at the delta there of an under expenditure by 395, and that's because page 4, very bottom of the page, unappropriated ending fund balance, and what I'm wanting to make sure I understand is how that,
No, that's not ending. That is
the $250,000.
for materials and services, debt service, and personnel services. You're appropriated under the budget column, the second column over, you'll see unappropriate ending fund balance of $250,000. That's what we projected to end with. The $427,000 is what was spent in the fiscal year in this fund.
Okay.
What? Say that again?
Well, we've got
The
the,
$427,000 is, that's,
no, sorry,
that's excess revenues over
Yeah,
expenditures.
I
So we're not
apologize.
starting with 250.
right,
Next year, we're starting with 427,000. At
Right,
least
sorry.
beginning available cash.
yes, thank you, sorry about that.
And we began the year with the 250,000.
No, on
No,
page one, we
anticipated.
started with 345,000.
Okay, all right. So we're close to where we were. This,
Right.
We
okay,
budgeted for 350.
okay.
So no activity in the capital maintenance fund for the month of June. And are there any other questions?
Any questions? Nancy?
Yep.
Thank, we're good, thank you. Now we need to approve. We need to approve that, don't we?
It's approved by consent.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, elect officers. Commissioner Huntington couldn't be here tonight, and he asked me to postpone this to the next meeting. And we'll honor that, we'll elect officers at the next meeting.
Okay,
So,
I'll put it on the agenda.
Approve meeting dates for fiscal year 2017 and 18.
I have reviewed and I move we approve.
So we don't plan on going anywhere this year?
Not unless you want to.
I'd like to go to Mapleton.
When would you like to do that?
I don't care. Just, not in April, but, yeah, I'd like,
I agree.
I'd like to have
That's
one in
a thought.
Mapleton.
Okay, all right, one of the summer months, I can call the Mapleton School and see what would work for them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I think we just agree to add the Mapleton date.
Yeah, whatever works is, but I think that we should.
Yeah, 'cause we went this last year, or this year.
Used to have the, yeah. Okay.
I'll modify my motion with the inclusion of a Mapleton date for the, to be determined for the regular meeting schedule.
Have a second, Nancy?
Second.
Nancy seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Maybe we'll skip number 7, committee assignments.
What?
Well, we can't do it without Huntington here.
That's right.
Yes, we could appoint him to all kinds of things.
Well, I don't think that's fair to him.
So do you wanna
We
postpone that
said
too?
we had to be fair to David, but that's all right. I
Just
think it
wish-
would, I think it would be appropriate to
Then
post
you
David
just take
here.
Ron's old ones and leave the rest of them the same.
Ron's the only one that did anything.
That's my point.
No, Nancy did.
Nancy-
I would like to
That's
Nancy
not
will
gonna
take the
change.
other half.
I would like to stay in mine.
I don't wanna stay in mine.
I
Well, we
think
got
we need
one.
to discuss them and get them out of the way then. Is that fair?
Sure.
Would you like to do that, Bill?
Yep, I'm prepared,
Nancy?
any way you wanna go.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just soon get it done.
Okay.
Okay, so the first page you have in your packet is what the existing, for this fiscal year, who was assigned to which organization. And then the second page is a blank to fill in for this year.
Whoa. I'm not taking Udo.
Why? You'd be good at that.
Yeah. Ron's down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 1, 2, 3,
One's a
4.
representative, one.
Well. The
So-
four's a-
Do you want me to read them off just for the, or do you wanna read them off for the audience so they're familiar with what
Well,
committees?
yeah, we have the City of Florence Urban Renewal Agency. Commissioner Caputo was assigned to it. We'll determine that. Lane Area Commission on Transportation, Commissioner Rickard. Also Lane Council of Governments, LCOG, Commissioner Rickard. Ron Caputo took care of the Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association. And Nancy took care of the Sisal Watershed Council. Pacific Northwest Waterways was Commissioner Caputo. Public Ports Association staff. I like that.
Where is that usually held?
That has been, you and I attended a meeting in Bandon for the Oregon Pacific Ports
Okay.
Association.
Okay,
It, I think, does rotate at different locations on the coast.
mostly ports or
Right,
that kind of thing?
and Salem. They do meet
Yeah.
in Salem occasionally.
Because, yeah, I would stay on that one. I didn't want to be on one that ends up like, can't even think where there's a lot of smoking
At the casino?
at the casinos. I will not go back to any of those. It just is too much, I don't like it.
Okay.
But I would stay on this one because it's in places where the smoking would be not there.
So just out of curiosity, are every one of these absolutely imperative that we attend?
At the
Pretty
bottom,
much.
it says,
Well,
requires elected official representative to the ones that have the 1 star, which is basically the first 1, 2, 3, 4.
I went to one, and you notice that there's no one, the Oregon Economic Development Association. I went to Newport, middle of the day, and I sat in a room full of scientists, and I couldn't understand a word they were saying. And it's my opinion, and that's when I come back and said, there's no reason for us to go to that. I mean, it really was a room full of scientists. And,
Do you have something against scientists?
no, I don't, but I felt out of place, and I'd like to appoint you to go there.
Which
You
one
fit
is,
right in
which
there.
one is that, Terry?
OCZMA, the 4th one down.
It was just tough. It was a tough one
Oh, okay.
to sit through. And a lot of these, we pay fees like them. We pay them $500 a year for support because they do lobby and they help our cause in some cases. And I think it's well worth the $500, but that's enough participation on some of these. So, and I agree, Nancy likes the Watershed Council. Ron always liked the urban renewal and LCOG, so. Do we need to set priorities? I mean, which ones do you want, Mike?
Which ones do I want? Well,
We need to ask Bill first. We need to ask Bill first. Bill, are there any that?
Urban renewal,
Good.
City of Florence, urban renewal,
You feel that's the
I
most
got some
important?
interest in,
Good
That's the
one.
most important position that you guys are looking at right now. And that's gonna determine just about which way this part's gonna go.
Well, and if you read there we do have we're a voting board member for that. So that is important.
I would also like to add the Oregon Economic Development Association back to the list. A couple years ago, it was decided by management not to renew that membership, and I think that is important to renew.
And which one is that, Dina?
That is right in the middle, Oregon
6th Avenue.
Economic Development
Oh, it's on,
Association.
okay, it is on here.
So we are going to start supporting them
Yes, I am
financially.
going to be renewing that membership.
And an elected official needs to be at that,
It's recommended.
and where do they meet?
I don't know yet. I need to find out more about it, so we can revisit that at the next meeting if you'd like.
Bill, is there anything else that grabs your eye, anything you'd like to attend?
well, Nancy already has her name in the Oregon Public Ports Association.
Oh, that's just alternate.
Okay. But, yeah, that would be, one that would interest me. But I don't, if it's more appropriate that staff handle that, that's fine. That's what's in the current slot.
Right, but that can be adjusted.
Okay.
Well, that and along with the harbor masters and port managers,
Right.
not that.
Yeah, Oregon Public Ports usually meets in Salem or somewhere in the local vicinity. The Pacific Coast Congress of Harbor Masters and Port Managers, they are all the port managers between Kodiak, Alaska and San Francisco. So they do conferences in the spring and fall, and they jump all over. In the fall it was in San Francisco. Did I say fall? I meant in the spring it was in San Francisco. This fall it's in Anacortes in October.
And that's too much travel for me.
Okay.
The Florence Area Chamber of Commerce needs to be addressed.
Yes.
That would be a big shoe to fill.
Thank you for volunteering for that.
I'm not so sure that Nancy or Bill or Mike might be
No,
better. I think they'd be better.
I think there
I
would
don't
be
think so.
conflict with some of the other meetings that I found that with a lot of them.
Okay, you're out.
Good.
You could pencil me in if you want, but I, again, don't want David to miss out on some of this stuff.
I would pencil Dave in for the Pacific Coast Congress. I know staff's going, but it's not uncommon to send a staff member along with the commissioner.
Right,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
right,
You know, and I think that would be a good one to pencil David in.
okay.
Which one is that?
Harbor masters and port managers.
Okay. Okay, pencil him in.
I guess I'll take what's left, I guess. I don't know. What,
You.
well, there
appointed
can't
the
be
one.
that many. There can't be that many.
Well, and there's alternate, if one of you who is the assigned member can't make it, then there should be an alternate.
If you need someone else, you can pencil me in.
what's not done?
All right, so I've got assignments for, got Bill Meyer for City of Florence Urban Renewal, Nancy for Lane Area Commission on Transportation and LCOG. I have no one signed up for OCZMA, which is the Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association. I think they only meet once a year.
Where at? There is
Newport, Agate Beach.
That's fine, I'll do
Nancy's Siuslaw Watershed Council. I have no one for Oregon Economic Development Association. And I also do not have anyone for Pacific Northwest Waterways Association.
I'd like to do the waterways.
Is this OEDA, is that the one with the propeller heads that you, the scientists, is that the one you?
No, I
That
think
was-
that was,
That was the one that, Commissioner Buckwald took, the OCZMA.
Okay.
And where does the, tell me again, the Oregon Economic Development?
I'm not sure, since we haven't been a member in a couple of years,
Oh,
I need
okay.
to revisit that, so we can revisit that at the next meeting if you'd like.
Okay.
And we can assign alternates at the next meeting also.
Yeah,
With-
that one interests me, and so I can either be an alternate or an assignee on
on the Oregon Economic
that
Development.
one.
Thank you.
Good.
And that fills all your assignments.
Yep.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the FEMA grant, which, we did hold, a work session at 6 o'clock. In the public meeting notice that I put out in the newspaper, it was, written there that we were meeting, in public, in open session at 6 o'clock. It didn't get put up in the window and it didn't get put on the website, so I apologize for that. But we had a meeting and, we are going to be having more work sessions on this project. And I will do a better job of getting it on the website and getting notices out, maybe I would have a little bit more advanced notice to where we can get it in the paper. And so the consensus of what we discussed this evening was I asked the board for direction. Right now, the grant documents say that the project should be completed by August 17th of this year, which is right around the corner, and that's not gonna happen. So, I found in the documents that we can apply for up to a 30-month extension for completion of the project. So the board has given me direction to file for that extension, which just gives us more time to hold more work sessions, review the documents, and make the right decisions to move forward. They gave me a list of things to address. I'll just read them off to you. The first thing is by asking for money, FEMA money, based on the reason for the erosion. Will we be funded based on river erosion or rain runoff? So I will be looking into that. There was also concern, there was some pictures of the design work, and on each end of the project are log jams. So the board asked me to find out how those log jams planned to be anchored. The engineer designed it with riprap in the middle and these log jams on each end. So gonna be looking into a little bit more of that. And to find out if we can modify the proposal to fix the gap, the area in between the current bulkhead and the erosion repair area. There's a gap
There
right
is.
there. So I'll be looking into that. And also to find out with the invoices that we have paid for, total up to $38,000, and will FEMA pay for all of those invoices? Because some of the invoices were paid for the engineer to create the first proposal of a much larger fix that included in water, and then it was revised to a second fix of repair for out of water. Will FEMA reimburse us for paying the engineer for both of those projects? So I'm going to be finding that out as well. And that is where we left it. Does that sound like a pretty good recap?
Sounds good. Would the chair like a motion to approve the recommendations out of the workshop?
Wood.
I would so move.
I'll second it.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Alright.
All right.
So be it.
So we will be scheduling, I would recommend monthly work sessions.
At least.
And it would be nice to maybe have a second Monday of the month or a set date,
You name it.
if possible.
You'd have to make sure it wasn't a city council
Right.
night, because I do like to go to those meetings.
Or would you like to make these work sessions an hour before the regular meeting like we did tonight?
I would much rather do that. I
That
think
works
That
real well.
works.
you're gonna have a better attendance audience-wise. Get them in here, and they never know what we're gonna talk about. And,
It gave us,
Frees
that
us
hour
up.
gave us plenty of time.
yes, it did. And we planned that every meeting,
Okay,
an hour work session.
well, that makes
Well,
it
we
easy to
can-
plan.
Of course, we gotta have data to talk about too, because we're asking
Yes.
for some stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, on an as-needed basis, yeah.
You have a question?
Could I suggest also that part of your monthly meeting work session also be preempted with public service announcements about the meeting, or the discussion?
Dina addressed that. She'll make sure it's on our.
Plenty of time, and
Yes, yes,
everybody's
sir.
in agreement, as the public's gonna know about this?
I'll make a public service announcement every month.
Just one?
Well, that's what I'm. do you
It'll
call-
also be
It
posted
would
on the
be,
website.
yeah, it'll be on the
website's
website,
the
it will be in the newspaper,
Okay,
and, yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Next on the item of, the agenda items are mortgage insurance policy. I believe we have our insurance agent in the house.
Yes, we have the Murphys here, and I've invited Kelly from staff to come because she deals with, the mortgage insurance, the mortgage customers quite a bit. But let me just give you kind of an overview of where we're going with this. In your packet, I have given you a copy of the resolution you passed 1 year ago, July of 2016, which talks about which addresses the policy amount requirements for commercial vessels and recreational vessels. I've also given you a memo of the transitional rules that was written for us to transition into requiring every vessel to have mortgage insurance. And Kelly prepared, she made some phone calls a few weeks ago and talked to a few other ports and marinas on what they require for insurance. And it seems like there's quite a bit of difference between everyone. I know that the state of Washington, I think it's their law that they require mortgage insurance, but Oregon is just getting on board now with more ports and marinas requiring insurance, but it's not a state law like it is in Washington. So the reason I'm bringing it to your attention is because we're having some issues now that we're into the season and we've, these transitional rules are in effect. The amounts that we're requiring, as you can see, by comparing what we are requiring to what other ports require, are a lot higher than other ports. And some customers are having trouble getting this kind of insurance at this level. Some insurance companies do not even insure boats at 1 million for pollution and salvage, but will insure a lesser amount of 939,000, which we have said close enough, that will work.
Not to interrupt you, but I'd like to declare a potential for conflict here.
Oh, okay,
I think that would be appropriate. I am a commercial vessel,
all right.
so there is a potential. I'm not saying
And
there
you
will
are,
be.
right, and you are a mortgage customer, so.
I am a mortgage customer, and that would be more of a conflict than the commercial side.
Okay, all right.
If there is any decision to be made, I would declare a conflict.
I am not asking for a decision tonight.
Okay.
I'm looking more for, well, probably there might be a motion, at the end, just to proceed with revising or amending Resolution 7/2016A to give a little bit more flexibility in some of these requirements.
Okay.
So let me continue forward.
Okay, thank you. I just want, before I went any further.
Okay,
Yeah, and I am a recreational vehicle customer of the port, so
all right.
I have a similar,
Do you feel you'd have a potential conflict?
I feel I could vote, but I could declare a conflict.
All right, if
As
it's,
I understand the rules, you can declare a conflict, but still vote on any
if it's
motions.
potential.
Yes.
So these rules require insurance for every boat we get in our marina. Some of our boats are little 12 to 14-foot aluminum boats with little outboard motors, and they're only coming for a week or two to go out fishing. They're not gonna have $100,000 worth of liability and $100,000 worth of pollution and salvage. So for us to require every boat, whether it's long-term or short-term, is tough. I mean, it's not fair, I don't think, for these smaller, short-term boats. And we don't wanna have to turn them away, just because the rules say we have to have mortgage insurance for every single boat. So we don't wanna lose our customers. On the resolution, number 2, under commercial and recreational, it says that, the port needs to be listed as additional insured. Kelly has found it to be difficult sometimes when, again, a short-term boat comes in, they're bringing us insurance, but they did not get a certificate, showing the Port of Siuslaw as additional insured. They're only gonna be here for 5 or 6 days. They don't wanna have to call their insurance company to get all that, that paperwork done, so, it's just been kind of a hassle for staff to require that for every single boat.
What are the rates of incident if, if somebody does come in and is a short time and has something really bad happen? Does that ever happen? I mean, that you get somebody in and something happens to their boat or to our dock,
I can't remember.
so that it's not something that's really.
It doesn't happen frequently, no.
Or
It's-
we're trying to fix a problem try to fix something that is broken is what I'm wondering. That's what you're asking me.
Well, some boats, there's an area of risk. And, with boats in the marina that haven't moved in years, we do not want to, take on, any derelict boats, but, things are moving in the direction, statewide, port-wide, and marinas of requiring insurance, but it doesn't have to be at the high limit that we have suggested with this resolution.
Yeah, I can agree with that, because there does need to be, protection if there's something that could happen to our docks or,
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I guess I can. It's not so much them doing damage to our dock, but if you bring a boat in here, and as he leaves, and this is a tough moorage to get out of because of the winds and the tide push you into the dock, if he hits another vessel, and that vessel is moored, has a moorage agreement, we're allowing an uninsured vessel to enter and hit another one of our vessels. Am I making sense?
that's a good point.
And pretty soon he's coming up, and believe me, it's happened to me. My boat got hit down there in the commercial side. And so then I come up here and say, well, you let him in here and he didn't have any insurance. So then we have a degree of liability.
Do we have coverage for that kind of liability?
Let's bring our insurance agent into it.
But first, I want to clarify, when Dina was talking about an additional insured, your resolution is just asking for the port to be named as a certificate holder. What that means, they bring the port a certificate of insurance showing they have insurance with the port named as a certificate holder. If their insurance lapses or cancels, then the port would be notified. When they mentioned additional insured, if Mr. Dooman moors his boat at the port and the port requires him to be named the port as an additional insured, then the port is actually added to Mr. Dooman's policy as an additional insured, and there is usually a fee for that.
if you can even get it done.
if you can even get it done, which is highly unlikely.
So
So-
it would be our opinion that asking to be a certificate holder as opposed to an additional insured would give you what you're looking for. That is confirmation that there is a policy in place, what the limits are on that policy, and if the policy is not renewed or lapses as a certificate holder, you would get notification of that. The only caveat is if they remove you as a certificate holder, you may or may not, depending on the company, get notified. So you would want, normally what people do is they track expiration dates. And when the policy renews, they ask for another certificate if it hasn't automatically come.
That would still create a burden for a 5 or 6 day user though, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't, if someone comes here from Bend for 5 days, I mean, they just show up and, you know, I really like, I'm gonna stay 5 days. That's pretty difficult to get that certificate in order to satisfy the board's requirement, right?
Right.
So that's not right.
Especially if they don't have insurance, yes.
And, you know, when Dina mentioned the small boat, say a 15-foot boat with a 9-horse motor. A lot of people don't buy liability or physical damage on those because they're covered under their homeowner's policy for, you know, theft and liability. So, and then personal or recreational boat policies. The pollution liability limit is built into the liability limit. You have, say if you buy $500,000 of liability, that is also, that 500,000 includes your pollution. So you either, you know, you can have $250,000 of a liability claim and $250,000 of a pollution claim.
Is
That-
is that with every insurance company or just Coast?
No, most companies, most
Most
personal
use policies.
in companies that insure personal and recreational watercraft, it is like that.
Well, commercial is too.
Commercial, you are able to get a higher limit, like you folks talked about, the $939,800. That is what is available on, say, most standard hobby commercial policies. But say if you, and it has been stated a time or two that people can't get higher limits than that 939,800, you can. There is a specialty company called WQIS that we use out of New York. And I have a large yacht policy in force for pollution liability. They have $1 million of pollution liability, which is required by a port where the boat is. The annual premium is $2,700 a year, and it's just pollution liability, nothing else. So they can get it. But now let's talk about, say, a standard commercial fishing boat policy that runs from $5,000 to $8,000 a year or more. Pollution liability is normally included in that policy, and it's cheap. It's $50 to $100 for the pollution liability portion on that commercial fishing vessel. And of course, one thing I first thought of that I worried about was, say Mr. Buckwald has a boat, is a tenant here at the port, and he has a $500,000 recreational boat vehicle. Something happens to his boat, catastrophe, you know, it sinks, leaks oil, and we exhaust his $500,000 of pollution liability. I wanted to find out if the port can be held liable for any excess cost. So I talked to Jens Jensen, which you people know, and he talked to Spencer today for me. And they cannot find a scenario. I mean, the port's dock does not have oil or gas in it. So if there's a gas or oil spill at a boat by a dock, it's obviously come from the boat. They've never had a case where a port was found to be liable for a case of a tenant's boat leaking of pollution. But like they said, the wild card in the picture is DEQ and EPA. None of us know what they would do in a case like that at this point.
So there's no answer to that question. Is that what you're suggesting?
We believe under normal circumstances, you would not be held liable, but DEQ could come in and maybe fine you. We don't know.
Fine the port.
Yeah, we have no idea. It's kind of a white elephant in the room.
So Mr. Dooman's boat sinks out there while it's moored, spills 1,500 gallons of whatever it does,
Yeah.
and his liability insurance is, or his insurance for pollution is $200,000, and it's gonna cost $400,000.
We feel that they would hold Mr. Dooman responsible for the excess.
Not the Port of
Not the
Sayus,
Port
that's
of
what you're
Sayus.
suggesting.
Using me as an example.
But it's not.
Well, no, I mean, it's just,
You had some bad karma.
and you know, a minute ago,
Bad
Mr.
karma,
Dooman,
that's right.
Dooman was talking about, say, somebody is in the port and or Nancy or one of you mentioned damaging a dock. Excuse me, the liability portion of their insurance would take care of repairing the port's dock if they were found liable.
And if they hit another vehicle.
Their liability insurance would also be liable for repairing the other vehicle.
One of the caveats, however, one of the reasons that boat owners have a problem getting this insurance, even though we're telling you it's available, is when you get up into those numbers, the companies require surveys, out-of-water surveys. And they need to be in the name, the carriers that we deal with, we don't deal with every commercial carrier out there. The carriers we deal with require that the survey be in the name of the boat owner. So if I sell you a boat, you can't use the survey that I just had done 3 months ago. Your survey has to be in your own name. So that becomes a financial burden. And then, of course, if they find anything wrong, then those repairs need to be made prior to the carrier issuing the policy. So there are other expenses other than just the cost of the pollution liability if you don't have those things in hand.
Depending on the amount of the policy or the size of the vessel.
Size of the vessel.
And we have had some luck getting pollution policies that, you know, if you're asking for $100,000 pollution limit instead of, you know, $1 million pollution on an older vehicle, sometimes we have had the survey waived because they're not out on the hook for a big amount of dollars, and they understand they're a lot of your older wooden sailboats, for example. A lot of those did not have a motor type of power engine in them, so they didn't have a lot of engine and fuel on board. So they.
John, got a question related to my personal situation, which is a recreational vessel. Right now, my policy is under my homeowner's policy as an additional rider, I believe. It may be an independent policy, but would it, I know I have a high liability limit, but reading here, it talks about ocean marine liability insurance coverage. Is that typically the language or the type of insurance that a recreational boater would buy?
Normally, you wouldn't see ocean marine except on a commercial policy. You would just see, you know, liability and property damage or bodily damage.
Okay. And as I understand it, then any pollution that would be caused by an accident involving my boat would be covered under my.
Normally under the liability amount you have, but there is some personal policies that do show it as a separate line item.
Okay.
Varies company by company.
Okay, so I need to check with my carrier, and that would be.
Yeah,
typical.
and I guess no real recommendation from us. It just depends on how cumbersome you want this to be to your tenants and to the port.
I think it's a risk versus reward question.
And you know, and if you think about it, not to add fuel to the fire, but we're only assessing half of the risk. You have as large of risk
on $1 million motorhome that comes and parks in your front row on the river, and you never ask them for a proof of any insurance. I mean, they carry a lot of propane and a lot of diesel. I mean, it's just depends on how far you people want to go. The deeper you go, the more work it is. That's just entirely on your commissioners. Any other questions, Terry?
Mike,
No, not,
you are gonna make a recommendation as what we should move our limits to?
No. We can discuss that,
Or you can give me direction to
but
work with the Murphys and with staff and reevaluate
your policy.
the policy and the resolution and come back to
We'll be
you
that's,
at the
glad
next
to do that.
meeting with a proposal.
that's an
That's
excellent idea.
probably a
We'd be
good
more than glad
idea.
to do that.
Yes,
There
sir.
will, there will be a time for public comments right
Just a
after
little
this.
bit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Would you like us to do that?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think that's an excellent, you need to find out what the market offers, and then we can require what the market offers, because we're requiring something the market doesn't offer it.
Yeah, and
I have all those limits that the court made me jump through all those hoops, okay? And I pay $75 a year. Okay? For $300,000 liability, $999,000 pollution. And the pollution insurance is based directly on the value of your boat. Your boat's only worth $200,000, that's all they're gonna pay to raise it.
Well, thank you, Dave. Good. Go ahead, John. I think you're interrupted.
don't remember.
I don't remember what you were gonna say
So
either.
the consensus is for us to work together and
Yes.
come back to the next meeting with a proposal.
Revisit this.
Oh, I know
this
what it was,
resolution.
Terry. The same, a personal or recreational boat policy that a lot of folks here have, we can recommend a limit, but that limit, the price will vary. You guys can have the same identical boat and it'll still vary in price because of credit, longevity with the company. So we won't go into talking price of those limits when we make you a proposal.
No, we don't, we wanna know what the market offers most commonly for recreational and commercially. You know, and then we can adapt our policy to fit those,
Sure.
what's offered.
Be more than glad to.
And we want staff to, to come with us with that in terms of what's reasonable around here, in terms of who should have it, what size of boat. I mean, what kinds of things, because we're requiring some things here that, like we talked earlier, somebody dropping by for 5 days, they're not able to do certain things.
To me, the question there is, they're transient. If they're coming by here for 5 days, maybe we need to put the transient instead of 3 days, 72 hours, give them 7 days. They just have to show us they have insurance, they park at the transient dock. That's why we have a
So
transient dock.
that's the kind of thing that we should, that it needs to be a full package.
If they're gonna come inside and get month-to-month mortgage, then yes,
And-
then they need to,
And you can probably, it's a pretty well-educated guess that a transient boat that comes into the port that has been traveling, the northwest waters or come up from Mexico, a lot of ports require they have documentation to show their insurance, and they'll have those papers on board if the policy has not lapsed.
I'm not so much worried about the transient sailboat coming in from Puerto Rico or wherever. I'm more worried about the guy bringing his boat over from Bend that comes over here and wants to put in for 5 days, and he gets caught up in our mortgage and hits another boat, and we didn't check his insurance. I think those people should be, if they bring a boat over from wherever in Oregon, if they don't desire long-term voyage, then they're transients and considered
It should
transients.
still have a liability,
Yes, they should show us a copy of their liability.
Or at least
Yeah.
give you their insurance agent's name, so you can call them and get it faxed to the port.
Yeah, but a lot of them will not do that because they haven't talked with the actual board holder, and so they won't send me something on that person. They won't do that.
See, that's something I hope you guys can talk about.
John,
See,
back
if
to
you
your,
have
back to
policy-
your point about the boat coming in with the documents. You're saying typically, they're gonna have some sort of proof of insurance. It wouldn't necessarily name the port,
Right.
but it would have a proof of insurance. I'd like you to, when you guys are discussing this, The idea is to protect the port, but not create an undue burden on the users of the port.
And you have to also take into consideration that when you get a certificate of insurance, you know, when the port is sent a certificate of insurance, you're sent that on 7/25/2017. That agent is telling you that insurance is in force. At that minute, the agent signs that certificate of insurance. If those people are on a monthly pay plan and they have a payment due on the first of the month and they don't do it, that policy cancels. So a certificate is really just a snapshot at the moment it is sent to you.
Understand, okay.
Do you feel that's adequate for us though?
Most of the time.
And that's what you're gonna be looking at, right? That's the direction we're giving
I think
staff?
under both proposals, it says named as certificate holder.
I
Either way,
used the
so-
wrong words, you know, as when I said additional insured,
Okay.
two different things.
And in terms of process, Chairman, a motion isn't necessary at this point, we're just directing staff, okay?
That would be correct, would be my guess. So-
Okay?
Correct.
Do you have any questions, Dina? Did
Nope.
that answer your questions?
Yep, thank you.
Kelly, did you have anything to add? You got through this pretty easy.
Oh, we'll have some stuff, but yeah. we'll
It'll be
talk
rougher
over it.
tomorrow.
And, Mr. Chairman, it might come up that we recommend a different mooring agreement also with some other wording.
Something we can certainly look at. Our mortgage agreement right now needs to be reworded, which we'll talk about in another work session, I guess.
So did we pass where we can do a little bit of leniency until we get this figured out, or?
That's something we never addressed, Kelly, that's a good question. Do you have managers?
Well, right now, requiring every boat to follow the policy on that resolution is a little difficult to do, based on some of these smaller boats and these short-term boats. Some of these little boats just don't have insurance. They're small, you know, you're requiring a 42-foot yacht to have the same insurance as a 12-foot, you know, aluminum boat with a 9-horse motor. So we need to have some leniency on enforcing these rules on a case-by-case basis.
Until such time that we have a new policy.
Correct.
And like I had a guy come in today and he just showed up out of the blue and wanted to stay one night, and I said, do you have insurance on your boat? And he goes, no, do I have to have insurance? I said, yes, you're supposed to have insurance. And he had no idea, he just showed up out of the blue, and I don't wanna turn him away, and he's gonna be here for one night and leaving tomorrow. So do I tell him, no, you can't come more, or should I let him come more? It's an 18-foot boat.
Well, I would say that a transient vessel moored for 72 hours, they're transient. Do we actually make them come up and show us proof of insurance? If they're moored in the
Transients still have
transient?
to. Yeah, they still have to come up and they have to pay their daily rate even though they're transient.
Well,
But
yeah.
you don't want, I don't think you're gonna want me to put recreational boaters, short-termers on the transient dock.
Where else do we have to put them?
They would get a slip. They start filling up the transient dock, and if we have problems and Coast Guard needs to bring somebody in and it's a big boat or something and I don't have any room to put it because I've got a whole bunch of seasonal transient boaters, that would really, I think, cause a problem.
Well, the transit dock can be utilized, it's generally not a full term.
Yeah, it's just usually that one small area, that very first dock, just before Mo's is basically kind of the transient, and then we have A docks after that. But if I start filling it up with, you know, recreational boats that are just here 1 and 2 days and don't have insurance, you know, and something happens, I mean, it could become a real problem.
Do you have a recommendation that you would like to see?
I'm thinking, you know, I know that they should have liability insurance, but I'm thinking the people that come in here for, you know, months at a time, or at least the fishing season, that we know we're gonna be here, they come every year, whatever, yes, they should definitely have insurance and everything, and everybody over in the West Basin, definitely. But if somebody just pops in like he did today, you know, and he's got, say, a 12-footer or an 18-footer, and, you know,
The difficulty is we need some definitive figures, like, boats under 25 feet that are staying less than 7 days. I mean,
that's kind of what I was thinking.
I think you need, rather than just, we need to avoid just a judgment call where one person can say, well, they treated this person like this,
Right.
and you treated this person.
It needs to be in black and white.
Yeah, so if Dina can live with it, I threw out a figure 25 feet or less, 7 days or less, until we get a chance to revise. I would hold our requirement in abeyance until we can revisit the issue.
Mr. Chairman, like the one Kelly just talked about, the boat that was gonna be here one night, can we put them clear on the southernmost on the outside, not on an inside slip,
To reduce
where
the
they're
risk.
not navigating around other boats in case they don't have any insurance? Tie
That was
them up.
kind of where I was alluding to, but it's tough mooring out there. It's
Or
real
can we have them
tidal.
sign a release, you know, is that possible too, to have someone who doesn't have insurance sign a waiver?
What do they waive it? Do they have no money?
It would be the other, it would be that you would ask them to sign something saying that they accept
They accept- that's what I
responsibility
meant,
for
yes.
damages,
Right.
that they're self-insuring is our term.
Thing you have to remember, the Coast Guard is gonna make them.
You're right.
You call the Coast Guard and they're gonna be up there and believe me, they know how to figure out who's right and who's wrong and who hit what, but it's nice if we're covered. We know they're covered.
But that would be good if we could have a form that if they don't have insurance.
Well, we can work together on that.
that would
But,
be
but
good.
Mr. Chairman, getting back, I threw out some figures. I'm not suggesting those are the right figures, but I think we need a very subjective criteria in the interim rather than put the burden on Dina's and staff's shoulders to determine how to make the call. Are those figures reasonable, or would you suggest
I would think anything that Kelly and the manager can come up with, they deal with the people, they know what comes in. Some of those 25-foot aluminum boat, they're gonna have insurance on it, we don't have to worry about it. Someone comes down the river in a rowboat, yeah, well, gosh, what are we gonna do, turn them away? No. So, it's a judgment call, it
Yeah.
really is.
But what we're talking about is holding this requirement in abeyance, and what I'm looking for is to give her some
I agree.
interim criteria.
Whatever those two can come up with is good with me, they deal with it,
But I think we,
25 foot and,
but I think
or
we,
even a value, put a value of the boat.
Well, then, yeah, how would I know the value of the boat?
Everybody's honest.
Like, do you?
yeah, but,
Really? Yeah.
but my concern is, do we need, commission action tonight to, in terms of, we're talking about holding this
We should.
requirement in abeyance. And I'm wondering about the language that we use tonight is what, and I threw out some language, I'm not saying that's the language we need, but we can make it, at least in the interim, 25 feet or less, 7 days or less, 14 days or less. You deal with the public. Is that figure gonna catch and help you with the majority of the people you have to deal with in terms of transient recreational vessels? Transient vessels.
Yeah, I would say 10 days or less.
Okay,
I think 10 days or less.
what about the length of the boat, 25 feet or less? That kinda covers the waterfront and awful lot of recreational boats, doesn't it?
Most of the boats are like 20 feet and under. So I'd say like under 20 feet,
Okay,
because they're not gonna have that much fuel aboard, you know,
Okay.
and probably not insurance.
then, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion until staff comes back with a recommendation on the modification to our insurance requirement, that we instruct staff that the requirement does not apply for vessels that are going to be moored less than 10 days, and I'd like to use the 25-foot figure. That would be my motion.
Okay, motion. Discussion?
We need a second, otherwise we,
Mike's
No
thinking.
discussion?
No second.
Looking for a second.
This is just until we get the policy, which is gonna be next month.
Next month.
That's the
I will come
problem.
back to the board next month with a resolution after I've worked with our insurance agent and staff.
Are you still under discussion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we are.
No, we're not to that point yet, because we don't have a second. We can't discuss it till we have a second. Maybe a dead motion.
Oh. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second it.
There is a second.
Okay.
Before we take a vote,
Now we can have the discussion.
Is the motion for vehicles with insurance or without?
vessels.
Vessels with or without insurance for all?
I'm saying we're waiving this requirement, John, so, I guess it would be all.
The requirement we're waiving, maybe you need to clarify this,
Yep.
is the transient vessels shall provide, are you waiving requirement number 3?
Yeah.
You need to-
Waiving the proof of insurance
Yes,
for vessels that come in under 10 days.
yes,
and
we
under
changed
25 days.
requirement number 3 to not 72 hours, but 10 days,
Yeah.
240 hours. And they do not have to show us proof of insurance
Yeah.
under 25 foot.
That is the intent of my motion, and it can certainly be voted down, but that was the intent.
And this does not, obviously doesn't apply to the commercial side.
But under, the discussion point, John, you're the insurance guy. Is there some additional language that we could put in that motion that would strengthen it from your perspective? I mean,
It's an interim, and you might throw in there, if they don't show proof of insurance, have them sign the waiver that they'll be responsible.
okay, if the second will agree, I will modify my motion to that,
I like that, Denver.
okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Nancy, you understand what they're?
Oh, yeah,
And
I'm
we'll call
fine.
for a vote.
I'm fine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
That was tough.
Well, that was good, though.
Yeah, I think it gives staff some latitude.
Well, and
I
that's
could
good.
say.
Until we get it more clarified
Yeah.
and better.
I hope you
Tune it
enjoy
up a
those.
little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
We're at the point of commissioner and manager reports. And I'm gonna start with Commissioner Rickard. Do you have a report?
Oh, I was waiting for the manager
Go ahead.
report.
Would you
Well,
like to give your manager report first?
Doesn't matter. I'm short. Want me to
so
do
am I,
mine?
so go ahead.
Okay, just wanted to let you know that the repaving of the Mo's and 1499 parking lots was supposed to be done next week. It has been postponed one more week. So the asphalt company is still under construction, and I got a call that it has just been bumped out another week. So, that's for your information. We do have a maintenance position open. We did lose one of our staff members last week. And tomorrow we will have Omelette and Sweeney out working with staff underneath the wharf to map out the second phase of the fire suppression system repair that we budgeted for this fiscal year in the capital maintenance fund. And FDOC has a few more repairs, and then we will be able to reopen it for the season.
Sounds good.
Any questions? Thank you, manager. Good job.
Okay.
Good.
On the 10th of June, or 10th of July, went to a city council meeting, and when the tide was low, I came down and saw the docks in their really crazy pinched way, and kinking the gas lines and all of the things that were happening when they were sitting on the mud. And the fireworks at the port, sitting out there and seeing them in the river was absolutely wonderful this year. And on next Wednesday, the 26th, at Honeyman State Park at 6:30 is a watershed meeting. Paul Engelmeyer will be there speaking about forage fish and the need for protection so that the whole ecosystem just keeps working. And those meetings are quite interesting and very relevant to what's happening in our whole area. That's it.
Good, thank you. Bill?
No comment.
Mike? There's things I'd like to put on the work session for next month. One of them being, we haven't started talking about dredging, but there's preliminary things we can do to help ourselves in the basin by removing boom logs. So just to let you know, I would like to discuss that next.
Is there somebody, Terry, that when we do that, that we should, any of staff that would be helpful to us, would you think, or not? I mean,
No staff member.
besides
Right, we
Dina,
could have the maintenance staff, join us for that discussion.
at least who would be responsible for participating in moving things around if that was going to, you know, if we got to that point?
Yes, and that'd be great if Jason or Tracy could, or both could show up, that'd be great. But I think I'd like to really talk about that. Other than that, we're open to public comment. John?
Just one, when we meet with Dina and Kelly to go over this, past meetings when the court was talking about rate, mortgage rate, to support have a clear definition of what they say is a commercial vessel and a recreational vessel.
We do.
Yes.
Okay. Because that will help us when we go to talk about the liability limits and stuff.
The problem with that you're gonna read, and Dina will point that out to you, is commercial includes a historic vessel, which is a boat that's 50 years or older. Makes them historic, so they apply, get the commercial rate. One of the dilemmas we had, which I'm not sure we covered yet at all, is we have a boat that's 50 years or older that qualifies for commercial, but he doesn't fish. So he's a recreational boat, but he gets commercial moorage because he qualifies. What do we do with his insurance?
We'll talk about
Do we give you enough latitude? We didn't cover that.
No, we didn't. So this one large customer is historic, commercial rates, but isn't fishing due to health reasons, and so therefore is considered a recreational vessel. So he's getting commercial rates, but he's paying the insurer. Well, he came with a policy less than what we were requiring for the recreational insurance, because he also fell under that category that Jean described. In order to provide that much insurance for that vessel, he needs to take the boat out of the water, and he's unable to do that right now. So he's given us a policy for 100,000 liability and 25,000 pollution.
two things. We might recommend that we come up with a third class of historic boats. A separate.
We would need to revisit that.
I mean, when we
policy.
make you a recommendation for this, and what is the goal of this insurance liability document? Do you guys have a goal? I mean, are you
Yeah, to
try-
protect the district and protect the waters and
Are we
keep
trying to increase
not bankrupt
tenants?
us.
Increase what?
No, we're trying to decrease, we've talked about, a lot of ports who required this are losing a lot of boats.
Right.
I don't know the terminology for some of those big boats that
Wooden boats.
they just sit there, they can't fish anymore, and they just park them there. And there are ports who have created insurance, and these vessels don't get insurance, so they look for ports to move into.
John, I'd like to avoid the law of diminishing returns
Yeah.
where we look to protect ourselves in this rather elaborate way, but we end up killing the moorage customers. So see if there's a happy medium there is what I would look for.
Now, I kind of agree with the young lady tonight that talked about the ambience down there with the commercial boats, we're losing that, so we certainly want them.
Yeah.
We do want them.
So we want protection, but we want customers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't we all?
We want it all.
Are there any other
And the
public
other fellow
comments?
wanted to comment.
Sir, did you have a comment? We waited for you.
You said that you'd discuss later and,
Okay. Thank you.
I have a comment. I was wondering if the commission would be interested in having a community participation, community citizens participation in some of your work sessions that care about what the board has, you know,
Perhaps a small group of
Citizens
people from here
advisory
in
group.
Old Town.
that's it.
Like a committee or something?
Yeah, and that's not that's a very good idea, Michelle. I think we might consider, as a commission, we could ask for help on the mortgage agreements.
Yeah, or just, people can present some ideas that might benefit the board.
You can present any idea you like, Michelle. This nice lady right here.
I know, I can talk to you.
Good,
But are you
good.
saying like an open house? An open house, like a?
Like a two-way. It'd be like a
Right.
meeting, it'd be like a committee.
Like a-
of citizens. I mean, it'd have to be, it can't be all of Florence, but it'd have to be a certain amount that could help us, give us ideas and talk about things, you know? It's like, maybe somebody out there knows.
Steering committee dedicated to a particular
Maybe somebody out
task.
here has some ideas about oyster farming. Maybe there's a possibility in this river for oyster farming, and somebody has some ideas. I'd love to have that here.
Exactly.
But we don't have the expertise or the time, but there's lots of people that do. So I think those are good ideas.
I think it's good, Terry, if you formed an advisory committee, then your advisory committee could have a town hall meeting, gather information, and your committee put together a recommendation, and the committee chairman bring that
Yep.
president.
Sounds like a good process.
It does, and that's something I think we should consider. We can't get enough people to serve on our budget committee. So how are we gonna get a citizens advisory? I mean, it'll be Michelle and Dave and Wendy. And that's fine. And Ron,
You got his attention.
I started, we've been here 3 months, 3 or 4 months. Yeah, since April anyway, we've been here 3 months permanent. We've lived and worked in many different ports all around the world, so I don't wanna get into all that, but each place I go into, it's just kind of a habit of mine because I'm a writer. I do like a critique. And I look at things around me and I talk to people and I hear things that people say, positive, negative. I see things, I keep my ear to the rail, I try to keep my mouth shut, but it's pretty rough. And that's what needs to happen here. I think this whole area is so gifted, it's so blessed, but yet everybody here that I see sitting behind this desk has lost the vision. They've lost the spirit of what this harbor is and what it could be. And I think that once again, doing a critique type thing like Michelle's mentioning, to listen to the people and ricochet back and forth some different ideas. Most of them will be crap, but some of them are also very good. I think that needs to happen in this place. I mean, I really do, because we love it here. We think this is the finest port on the West Coast. And
I hope you don't feel that we've lost the vision.
Oh, I do. I
Mr.
really
Chairman,
do.
I've only been to one meeting and I've already lost the vision.
Oh, the vision.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I hope we can change the
Well, that's
plan.
something for us to work on, and that's, we intend to work.
Any other public comments? Harlan? Nothing? No,
I've been listening.
No new art?
no new art, nothing?
Not yet.
Know what happened to my garbage?
I gotta go.
Commissioner, ex-commissioner, first citizen of Florence Caputo?
He needs to have his crown on.
5 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
That being said, we will now close the meeting.
Thank you.
Good job, Jerry.
Yeah, but we're gonna do an executive, right?